Hi, I'm TJ Shevlin, Senior Content Coordinator at Upper Deck.
And hi, I'm Joe Sorenson, Associate Product Manager for Entertainment at Upper Deck. And you're listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Ow! Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness. We've got a real treat for you this week, folks, as well as the normal crew of Wesley.
Hello.
Jason.
Hello.
Keith.
What's up?
Josh, you're down at the bottom there.
Hey, what's up?
We have, I'm gonna say your full names now because it comes up on email. Joseph Sorenson and
Fancy.
Thomas Shevlin, otherwise known as TJ and Joe from Upper Deck. How are you guys?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. Hello.
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
TJ, what's the J stand for? Just because I'm curious now.
James.
James.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
My mother didn't want me to be Thomas James Shevlin Jr., so TJ is where we ended.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Good. So, welcome, guys. So, what do you guys do at Upper Deck? And I don't know. I'm going to pick on Joe first because you're in the middle there.
Okay. Well, I am the Associate Product Manager for our entertainment trading cards. So I'm not stuck under one particular licensor. It's basically whomever we're working with, whatever needs to be done. That is essentially, in a nutshell, who I am and what I do up here.
Cool. And TJ.
I'm the Senior Content Coordinator. So all of the things my teachers told me in school that were going to be useless when I'm an adult are now useful when I'm an adult. So long division still eludes me, but first appearances and greatest battles are now totally my jam.
Cool. I love it. It's always good when you can turn your hobby into your career. I understand that's probably the best thing. So, tell us a little bit, and TJ, as you were the last person to speak, I'm going to go with you first. Tell us how you got to Upper Deck and what your kind of background is, because I'm always curious to hear about people at Upper Deck as well as the product.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm born and raised in New York City. Grew up right in the heart of the Marvel Universe, and 1,000,002 comic shops all around me growing up as a kid. So, I was eventually going to fall into it. As a kid, it was all comic books, trading cards, action figures, and that all kind of led to my first comic book shop job, which eventually led to me working for IDW Publishing for about 4 years. Now I teach comic book writing at a nonprofit comic book studio. I work on Marvel characters all day here, and last year I was a 2023 Eisner Awards judge. So my
Wow.
hands are kind of all around comic books. So it's what I love, and I get to have more of an impact on characters that I love doing what I do here, which is great.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that comic book job because I had a little I can't remember how I found it now. I think I might have found it on your LinkedIn. I peeped your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And there was a link there to your article about St. Mark's Comics.
Yes,
which
I worked there
always
for...
used to go to when I was in New York.
Thank you.
So I wouldn't be at all surprised because I went through a phase of about, I mean, it's nothing to you like Keith, you live, outside New York, you'll probably go in like every other week. But for me being in England, it's quite a big trip. But I went through a phase ago, and they're like 2-3 times a year throughout the noughties and into the early teens. And I'd always go to Midtown. I'd always go to Jim Hanley's. I'd always go to St. Mark's, and Forbidden Planet as well, because they're different to the one in the UK.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Around. So I'm absolutely certain that I probably would have met you on one of those trips.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'd probably put comics in your hands and talk to your ear off. So
yeah,
I love
expect
it.
So. Yeah.
Awesome.
I remember diving into the stacks at the back.
Oh yeah, our dollar boxes, 50-cent boxes. Yeah,
awesome.
they're it was great. Yeah, I shopped there as a kid and then worked there for 8-9 years, and that was what kind of propelled me getting into the publishing side of the industry.
Well, there you go, kids. It's not a career dead end working in a comic shop, as TJ proves. It's gone now, hasn't it? I think that's the article I saw. I hadn't realised it had closed down.
but it rose much like Jean Grey. It risen from the ashes. Now they're out in Industry City in Brooklyn. It's
Oh,
the
really?
same team. Everybody's all there, and they're harder to kill than a cockroach on steroids.
wow. Okay, you've paused. Has he paused for everyone or just me? No, where's he gone?
Oh, oh,
Oh, he's coming
I have
back. He's
eyes on
moved.
him. He's still here.
He's
Yes.
moved. He's
Have
moved down to
eyes
the
on
bottom
him.
of my screen. He was talking about cockroaches, and then he suddenly vanished. I think the cockroaches. I think the cockroaches bit through his power cable. But while he's coming back, Joe, tell us how you arrived at Upper Deck. What's your origin story, sir?
Wow, my origin story. I always like to joke that I have a villain origin story, but I'm just kidding. I would love one, but no. All jokes aside, grew up in a larger family in the 80s. Began collecting trading cards and Marvel comics in the late 80s. Um, having four brothers, my eldest brothers would usually call dibs on certain titles, and so we couldn't collect the best. He had to collect the best, and so we could borrow and read when we had a chance. There came a time, though, that fortunately for us, a comic shop went in right next door, and that lasted for about 2 years. And so I used to run around the neighborhood and sweep driveways for extra money and clean yards for extra money. And I'd go straight to the comic shop, either, whatever I could afford, whether it's a new comic or two, whether it's a new pack of Marvel cards or two. But I've been involved in the collector community over 30 years, trading cards, action figures, comic books. I very, very enthralled in the whole pop culture side of things when it comes to Marvel comics. However, collectively, my brothers and I, once a certain group of people left Marvel and went off to form Image, we kind of followed as collectors. So there were still titles in Marvel, but we expanded. We started collecting Image, Valiant, Dark Horse. So that kind of opened up the scope of just how big this industry really is. And it was all basically about storytelling. And it was just a way to kind of escape reality. Let's just, dive in, immerse ourselves. And we found it something we really enjoyed.
Nice, nice. And then you ended. So how long have you guys been at Upper Deck?
Well, I myself, actually, TJ and I, we started 1 week apart from each other.
Yeah.
We have both been here for just under 2 years. Um, but yeah, it's essentially, and just to kind of fill in that extra gap, is I was creating a mystery pack product, a sports mystery pack product, at the time that I applied for Upper Deck. And during the interview, I was running through some of what I had built and created. And to the surprise of the gentleman interviewing me, they said, "Oh, well, that's a build sheet. We do that here, and like you've already have experience with this, and that's great." Kind of gave me a leg up on the competition. Um, Being knowledgeable on Marvel Comics and trading cards, both industries, I think with that kind of got me in here. But I'll jump back to TJ now.
I mean, I don't know what else to say other than, I mean, yeah, we've been here, what, year and a half now. We're hitting 2 years in a couple months, and I mean, it's been pretty great. I mean, we're working all the characters we love and working on content that we love and working with rad people. So,
And you're still there. And I can see all these figures lined up on your desk there,
oh
TJ.
He's a
gosh,
true
my
fan.
desk is, yeah, my desk is insane at one point. I
Oh,
mean, it is.
oh,
There you
oh
go.
my goodness. There we
Whoa,
go.
there's an aside.
It's
For those on
It's
audio,
all
it's a video.
it's
Oh,
definitely a
boy.
magnet in the office. If anybody is
Wow.
brand new or walks by or walks past, I mean, TJ
Oh.
is magnetic to begin with.
Yes.
However, his workspace is also.
If
That's great.
you come
it's
in of a morning and something has moved or is missing, do you know straight away?
typically yes. There was a point where there's a mystery person around here who was turning figures the opposite way. So
Oh.
I'm still trying to figure out who that was. So that is definitely a Scooby Doo level mystery around here. But no, it's cool. I mean, it's nice when we have visitors as well, because I want them to see that we're not just people who make product. We're people who
Yeah.
our collectors, we love this stuff. It gets people really excited to talk about it. We had a Halloween here, and a bunch of the staff all brought their kids in to trick or treat at everybody's workstations. So everybody had like a bucket of candy. And I think more kids were excited to see the toys and superheroes and all that than they were to get candy. So
Nice.
it's fun.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, Halloween, well, we've just done Fleer Ultra Midnight Suns, and that's not what we're talking about today. We are going to talk today about another Fleer product that Grant mentioned when he came on the show in, oh my goodness, October now, I want to say. I think it was October. Anyway, it was last year. Fleer Throwbacks 1989 Marvel Edition trading cards. So what can you tell us about this, guys? Because it sounded fantastic, and Grant gave us a little bit of information, but let's assume Grant told us nothing. Why should we be excited about this set, and when does it come out?
Great question. So this is the first iteration of a brand new brand, Fleer Throwbacks. Owning the Fleer brand under the Upper Deck umbrella, we have access to just all this iconic designs, imagery. So we felt, why not? Let's do something with that. And so we decided on the year 1989, because not only is it the first year, the year that Upper Deck was a company, but it was nearing the end of a decade-long iconic Fleer designs in all of their brands. But a third reason is that it's kind of right on that bordering, right when Marvel Comics started picking up a lot of steam and right before it actually began to blow up in the early 90s, we do feel that this was kind of a sweet spot, and it made sense for a couple different reasons. So that's essentially a little bit about the product, but to really drive it home, it's essentially, what if Fleer created a Marvel publishing product in 1989? What would that look like? How can we make that work? And again, with it being a Fleer Throwbacks brand, the theme is we're going to pick up old designs. So instead of saying what would a 1989 product look like for Marvel publishing, well, we're not recreating everything. We're finding a sweet spot, finding something that works thematically, and we're just rolling with it.
Nice.
Joe said it best. Sweet spot is 100% the way I would describe this product, especially because whenever we think about the period of Marvel that all of us within our age range kind of fell in love with, you immediately think 1990, 1991, but 1989 to me spiritually is closer to 90 and 91 than it is to anything 84, 85, 86, so on and so on. So this gives us the opportunity to do, the beginnings of McFarlane Spider-Man or John Byrne She-Hulk and, Silvestri X-Men. And it's just, it's the coolest,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice period. So what, I understand it's an EPAC release,
That's
exclusive
correct.
release.
That's correct.
So when's it dropping?
So we have it scheduled to release on Wednesday, February 21st. So essentially right around the corner. We're real excited for this.
Right. So what can you tell us about the set construction, set design? What can people expect?
Absolutely. So this product will be a 3-card pack. Of those 3 cards, you will receive 2 digital base set cards and 1 chase card. And that 1 chase card could either be a base set parallel, one of the inserts, or a sketch card. So we do have sketch cards in this product. Like I said, a 3-card pack. There will be 15 packs per box. There will be 12 boxes per case. Trying to stick with the theme of 1989, we wanted to be careful not to include any technology that we didn't see in 1989. So there isn't a lot of flashiness in the product. We're staying true to the year. We're staying true to the period. We have some UV gloss, but we also have a lot of serial numbered parallels of the base set. And I will say the base set is character based. So, these will be character cards paralleling out. We're not doing, in certain products, we might in the base set retell a story. There is no story to retell in this product. These are all character cards. And we feel it's going to be a lot of fun. We've even built out a very achievable achievement program that I believe anybody, any collector could make their way through. They can stop whenever they choose to. But one of our biggest draws is our sketch cards will be packed out. However, we're setting aside a few sketch cards with a whole different design as the main achievement prize. So we feel we have a real good enticing product. They'll have people coming in and coming back to try to achieve some of these sketch cards or even to pull a sketch card. However, we do have serial numbered character parallels to 489, which matches the 89 theme, 289, 89, 25, and then the lowest serial numbered card will be to 5. So we actually have a rainbow of colors for these parallels. And we are going with the famous 1989 Fleer baseball design that many people remember the Ken Griffey Jr. card being on. A lot of other people remember the Billy Ripken card. So this is what you can expect. It's that pinstripe gray background. When it comes to these rainbow parallels, that gray background will flip out for these other colors of the rainbow. But we're allowing our collector to collect the entire rainbow. We have character collectors, we have set collectors. We tried to kind of nail it for anybody, essentially. It's not a top level product. It's affordable. I would say it's more of the mid-end type of thing. But essentially, as far as structure is concerned, that is kind of a real, glazed over kind of explanation. But as far as the content inside, as far as that is concerned, TJ, would you mind shedding some light of who specifically we can anticipate to see in this set?
Yeah, I mean, first, I guess I should make sure that you guys know now there won't be any secret messages on baseball bats anywhere in the set. Sorry to disappoint. I know we just lost a huge chunk of the fan base.
Yeah.
What's really exciting about putting together a product like Fleer Throwback 1989 specifically is when you look at that period for Marvel Publishing, whoever your favorite character is going to end up being in this set if they were around in that period, hero or villain. And there was a lot of really cool stuff by the late 80s. The X-Men books were really changing in a way where you could see there was this even greater future that was going to happen even if you didn't like know what that was going to be. So if your favorite book was Uncanny X-Men, if it was X Factor or was Excalibur, all of that is represented in there. Which is just so much fun because when I think Excalibur, first thing I think is Alan Davis. I always think just his Shadow Cat, his Captain Britain, his Phoenix, the way they all look there. So getting to see them on cards for me is amazing. I brought up John Byrne's She-Hulk before, and she was breaking fourth walls before Deadpool was an apple in anybody's eye. And so
Absolutely.
getting to do stuff with that is really cool. Obviously McFarlane Spider-Man and John Romita Jr. Daredevil, just all of that stuff is so cool and exciting. Walter Simonson X Factor, so Archangel and Beast and all that. And it's just every book at that point was just different and it was cool. I mean, Avengers was a B book in 1989. Avengers West Coast was the A book. So we get to really lean into that on this too. So I don't want to give away too much if people are more excited about, ripping open a pack and seeing who's going to be in there. But I mean, all of you guys, if you have a favorite character from that period, they're in this.
Awesome.
And if I may, just as TJ mentioned, brought up Deadpool, I did kind of want to drive home that again, we're sticking to 89, so certain characters who were not around before or at that time will not be included in the product. We are also very careful that we are choosing images from that year, so the entire look, the look of the character will 100% be that dated time period.
Just jotted it down actually. When were the images going to be coming from? So
yeah, I was super specific about that. Mostly, really completely because for me accuracy is everything. I want everything not just to feel like we're pulling from that era, but it's like what Joe said in the beginning, the card set itself should feel like it's from that era. So I mean,
From a
at
production.
that point, yeah, who's one of the hottest characters in 1989 is Venom. So bam, right there. That's the character you're going to think about. Brown costume Wolverine, you're going to think about, um, Vision and Scarlet Witch. Everybody loves WandaVision. All of the stuff that WandaVision was pulling from is right here at this period in Avengers West Coast. So it's fun to be able to play with that component there.
I'm just scrolling through a list that Jason's done homework on this. Jason sent us round a list earlier on of comics that came out in 1989 in order of their
Ooh.
release. I'm just
Yeah.
scrolling through it now, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I was looking at Mike's amazing newsstand, which is great for looking at what, cover date or release date of comics. And I was going through starting at January and just all these covers. I like everybody. I'm more of a Spider-Man guy. So just
Yeah.
the McFarlane covers and on Amazing Spider-Man were awesome. And he also did some really great covers during that time period from Marvel Tales as well.
yes.
I don't know if
Yes.
any of that imagery is going to be
I
on the
love the Marvel
cards,
Tales
but he
covers.
did some X-Men and Spider-Man on those Marvel Tales that are pretty neat.
I love that you brought that up, and this was something that I was super excited about because Joe was with me on this one. There is a 5-part story in Marvel Comics Presents. I think it's issues 33 through 38, and it's Eric Larson doing an Excalibur story, and that's before Eric Larson was Spider-Man Eric
Right.
Larson. And so I know we pulled from some of that, but
Okay.
one of those MCP covers is Todd McFarlane doing Shadowcat. And we
Oh, nice.
100% used that because
Okay.
the truth is, where else is that going to land in any Upper Deck set?
Right.
Mhm.
So that was the beauty of doing this was, oh, cool. You want Todd McFarlane doing Shadowcat on a trading card? There you go.
Sweet.
Mm.
Cool. And is this gonna so when I was looking at it, is this pretty much all the Marvel superheroes? Because it like in 1989, Marvel was doing they had the book The Nom and some Conan stuff, other kind of titles that I remember seeing like, when I was a kid. Are you gonna
Yeah.
dive into any of that or is it all superheroes?
Yeah, we couldn't do, the Nom is a rad book, perfect example of Marvel's kind of diverse catalog at that time.
Right.
But like anything like the Nom, Conan, Transformers, G.I.
Right.
Joe, all that's off the table.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But
imagine because it's different licenses, isn't it, with that as well?
yeah,
So,
let me double check though, because I'm going through my character list right now just to make sure. Yeah, there was one character I did want to use in this. And while Marvel does own the character, the period we were shooting for, we couldn't use, and it was Death's Head.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that was going to get you too, Ian. And the
Mm.
reason why I wanted to use Death's Head specifically, he's the only Marvel character that has appeared in the Marvel Universe, in Transformers, and Doctor Who.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to hit that.
And I'm pretty sure
So,
he originated in Marvel UK as well.
Marvel UK,
Mhm.
totally.
So yeah, because I remember he was all over the place when I was growing up.
So cool.
I just noticed actually you've got Mark Spector Moon Knight issue 1 in 1989,
Mhm.
and of course Moon Knight is all over the place at the moment. Some of those covers are amazing. If that's the cover I'm thinking of, let me just open it here because it's just taking a moment to load because my computer is really, really bad. Yes, okay. Oh, yes. I love that. Good. Okay. What's the size of the set? How many cards are we talking about here? Is it a 90 card, 50 card, 200?
So our base set is a 30 card set.
Oh, okay.
So it's achievable, it's collectible, it's completable without breaking the bank. We also have 4 different insert sets, and these inserts I didn't touch on before are literally pulled from previous designs as well. There was an old baseball Fleer design called Superstars. Great, let's throw it in there. We'll make a 10-card insert set called Superstars. There was another design in baseball called For the Record. So we weren't essentially trying to recreate anything. We kind of wanted to pull from what was already done and then just kind of dust it off, see if it works and fit it in. We wanted everything to be on theme. There's another insert called Exciting Stars, which is a old Fleer card we have another insert called Superheroes of Marvel. So each of these 4 insert sets are going to be a 10-card set. TJ has filled out the checklists excellently, I would, in my humble opinion, for this entire product. So I will flip it back over to TJ real quick for a bit more information on that.
Well, I'm gonna say I was able to and we're all gonna compliment each other here. I was able to make a checklist as good as we were able to because Joe built what I think is one of the most creatively exciting products that we've done in the year and a half that we've been here, and it taps into that like lizard brain of nostalgia that all of us have.
Yeah.
And we all talk about how we want new things, but going back to that old thing still feels really good. It feels really nice as well. I do have to talk about Exciting Stars real quick.
Mm.
Um, Out of all of the inserts on this set, Exciting Stars might be one of my favorites because it was uh 10 characters that are in there where it's not necessarily like were they characters that are long lasting and all that, but was it characters that moved the needle in 1989? So I will tell you at least 2 characters that are on there, and Joe, I hope you don't mind,
I don't mind one bit, please.
but this to give you guys an idea of how wide a net that we cast on a product like this, where we realistically only get 12 months of stories to work with.
Mm.
Um, I'll give you guys 3 instead of 2. Jubilee,
Mhm.
Night Thrasher, and Monica Rambeau as Captain Marvel.
Oh,
So
Okay.
this was a lot of fun to do.
oh,
And like
okay.
I'm a new Warriors kid. I grew up loving teen superheroes in general. So getting to put the new Warriors anywhere is, that's total heartbeat.
Uh, wow. Okay. I'm still scrolling through the list here, and there's so many good. I mean, you've got that entire peak McFarlane era as well,
Mhm.
and you've got Marvel Comics Present is just a smorgasbord of good stuff in
Right?
that period. You've got that period of Daredevil as well. Talk to me about what it was like to lean into that golden period of Daredevil.
Okay. So I'm actually really excited about this. So Anna Senti was my first Daredevil writer as a kid. And it's always hard when you bring her up because the first person everybody thinks of is Frank Miller.
Mm,
And she had this Herculean task of following all of that Frank Miller work. And not only does she nail it, she completely sticks the landing. But the coolest part, it's all the Mephisto stuff in there. You
mm,
get that really cool John Romita Jr., gnarly demon tongue looking Mephisto. And you've got at that period, it's Anna Senti's doing this really cool stuff where Mephisto is all, ticked off at Daredevil because he's wearing Mephisto's colors, but he's doing the work of the just. And
yeah.
it's just complex storytelling that nobody else was doing. And that level of storytelling that you always get on a good Daredevil run, no matter who it is. And so for us to not just get to use Daredevil in this set, we got to use Mephisto because of all of that. And Mephisto is a character that we're not always granted access to. So being able to use him on this specifically because of how important he was to Daredevil during that period because of Inferno and all the stuff that was
Mm.
going on. I mean, like Joe basically saw me doing cartwheels because we were able to use that stuff.
TJ loves Daredevil, by the way, but yes, yes, yeah,
What's not to like? I mean,
yes,
let's
Right?
face it.
exactly,
Let's
exactly.
face it. Um, cool. Jason, or any of you guys, what are you hoping is going to be in here that we haven't heard of yet? If you think back to the stuff that you've read from that period.
I
Is
guess
there
for
any Silver Surfer? Look at that face.
He's giving us the
Uh,
eyebrows. He's giving us the eyebrows. Look at this.
it's the Millhouse eyebrows, right?
Yeah.
Late 80s Silver Surfer is so rad, all that cool like Steve Englehart stuff. So yes, certainly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See, we're going to gradually wheedle it out.
Absolutely.
By the end of this episode, we'll have a checklist, even though they won't be in any order. This is like shooting fish in a barrel. Wesley, sorry, you're about to jump in.
No, I was gonna say for me, it was like I always got excited when I knew a new event was coming up, like Secret Wars 2, or I think this was maybe towards the end of Inferno. Was there any events, any Inferno stuff that inspired any of this?
Well,
Or
that's a great question. For this particular product, not so much the storylines. We have a brand called Allegiance in-house here, Upper Deck, that is focusing on storylines. I would have loved to, but I was told, keep it what it is. Don't stray. Don't venture. But unfortunately, I don't believe there's any. TJ might be able to speak on this a bit more, but I think it's just the characters. We're not necessarily calling attention to storylines during that time.
Sure.
So while that's true, I was still able to allow storylines that were happening at that time to kind of be a North Star to the way I was choosing characters. So I just want to make sure that my kung fu is correct here, because sometimes even I forget.
Kung fu.
Marvel. So okay. Yes, I was able to. That was so. Acts of Vengeance was a big one that was going on at the time. And while there are some characters in Acts of Vengeance that we don't have access to at the moment, there were others that I was able to use. So that was kind of cool. Like Kingpin, obviously, I was still able to use Magneto, and I can tell you for sure there's that the McFarlane Amazing Spidey cover with Magneto. I believe we used an image of Magneto. We used the image of him from that. I will tell you guys, there are characters that you're gonna feel like, oh, they kind of got left out, or maybe we missed out on them. I kind of feel like overall, in regards to storylines that were happening at the time, I think we tried to hit as many heavy hitters as we were able to.
I think I was mostly asking because I wanted to see if there was, Madeline Pryor had that outfit that she wore during that time.
Oh boy, I can tell you right now that outfit for sure was going to be a hard no.
Yeah, we have to pass things through approvals, but yes.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Joe, I was going to ask Joe, is there a set that you guys have done recently from a production standpoint that reminds you of this? That feels similar.
That's a great question. This isn't built to be a large product, with the 30 card base set, 4 insert sets, and sketch cards. It's relatively a smaller build, a smaller product, comparatively speaking. It's still a core product, but it's one of our smaller core products. That's a great question. I'm sure aspects of this product have reminded me of others, but there has really been this idea to just keep this its own thing, don't stray, don't venture. But that's not to say that nothing would ever not remind us of other products. I would say yes. Specific examples, I don't know if I actually have any at the moment, but we tried to, pull in this rainbow parallel. Like, so for instance, we do parallel character cards in other sets. We have paralleled base sets in the past. We are straying away from that. As Ian, you might remember, as Grant mentions, nobody wants a blood gurgling in the alleyway serial number to 10, so, but for the sake of, did this remind me of other products or other sets? Maybe a component in the way that when we're paralleling out these character cards, we have, unserial numbered ratioed parallel cards that you can see more frequently, but then we also have these serial numbered parallel cards as well.
At this point, because you mentioned the parallels, I am contractually obligated to say the words Aunt May Bong card. Spider-Man Metal Universe, and we will just leave that one there.
Oh boy.
I think
The Doctor Strange COVID.
the COVID strange, yeah. It's the graspy hand in front of Black Widow. Anyway, sorry. I'm going way off piste. Cable, New Mutants 87.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, what's not to like about 1989 from that point of view? And what else am I looking at here? I'm trying to find the so that Monica Rambeau, it's Captain Marvel. Was that
Yes.
the Spider-Man annual?
Yes.
That had her on the cover. I can't remember which one it
Spider-Man
was now.
Annual 26, I think
Yeah,
that is.
somewhere around there.
Amazing Spidey Annual 26.
Yeah.
But that's but by 1989, Monica, she had just gotten a one shot. Yeah, she had just gotten her first one shot, or yes, it wasn't a mini series. It was a one shot that they had done, and I thought it was looking back on it, it was really nice to see her kind of go from kind of a legacy character who takes over this name that almost seems to be shared by everybody at this point. For her to become at one point the leader of the Avengers, even while Captain America is on the team, to end up getting pivoted over here. And for me, like I love Carol Danvers. She's great, but when I think of Carol, I immediately think the Warbird costume first. When I think of Captain Marvel Beyond Marvel, I always think Monica. So again, this was another spot. So it was another set where we could put a character in there where there's no confusion on who it is. She is 100% Captain Marvel, and that, I don't know, that just kind of made me excited to be able to do that.
Yeah, good. Well, it does anchor it very much in that period as well, which I guess is kind of the idea. It reminds me a little bit from what you've said, and I know obviously this is a very different product. It reminds me a little bit of Marvel Ages in a way, because that kind of had its own, that stood alone. I mean, it was a bonkers size set.
Yeah.
But that had a very, it had that heritage stock on there. It had the different, it kept it fairly clean. It was character based. You had the decades, which were just astonishing. Petition, please, to bring them back as their own thing. But it kind of reminds me of that. One of the other things I will say is that you must have kept it pretty tight, because usually with sketch cards, the stock and people see it out there. I don't know about you guys. I've not seen a thing.
So I know that the secondary market right now, there's a bit of turmoil with sketch cards, with APs and other things of that nature, where they actually packed out, where they actually, artists that were contracted for the product did it. We have been trying to kind of keep it close to the chest. That's not to say that it won't leak. We can only control what we can control. There are a lot of cooks in the kitchen. We have tried to reel back like who actually has access to things like this. But I'm just happy to hear that these haven't leaked just yet. But they're beautiful sketch cards, and a little bit more about the achievement sketch card is that it's actually picking up that 1989 Fleer design. So we will have that border on the achievement sketch card with an actual character in there. And Wesley, I apologize, because your question before, does it remind you of anything other product? And Ian, you brought that up too. I guess we can kind of say in a roundabout way that this could be similar to like an annual or something of the 1989 year. So yeah, in a way, but we're not necessarily fitting to the structure of annual, for so to speak, but in a way this kind of does. So yes,
gotcha.
Kind of remind me.
And you mentioned the parallels for the base cards. Will the 4 inserts have parallels as well?
Great question, Jason. They will not.
Okay.
The only parallels in this product are for the character base set cards.
Okay.
You know what this kind of what I loved about this set? Well, no, I'll tell you what I didn't love about this set first was the weekly release schedule. But apart from that, Marvel Weekly was a tight set. It wasn't too big. It had a lot of really good imagery in there. It had some nice designs. And the negative parallels that you got were pretty cool. And you got some pretty deep, the sketch stock on that was pretty cool as well. But it wasn't a big set. It was kind of,
That's right. We face our own very unique challenges when it comes to the weekly products. I'm unsure if it's contractually obligated, but we like to try to please our licensing partners with something on release day, something. Now, we are a long way removed from the days where we could release an entire core product at the time that the movie released. We just don't have access to many of the things that we used to have access to, which would provide us the opportunity to create something or even to get a head start on something. So with these weekly products, it's very challenging because we don't have a huge budget for these. We don't, we can't throw the moon at this whole product. We can't put everything in that we want. We also have very limited images. So we have to work with what was provided to us. We try to get as much out of very little we receive at that time for those weekly products. Yes, there, looking back, I wish, certain things might have been done differently or approached differently. It's essentially just kind of to wet the mouth, I guess, so to speak, of the collector of, here's the weekly pack. Unfortunately, we don't have a big budget to include, autographs or sketch cards or to make those super fancy. Again, we're dealing with deadlines. We're dealing with multiple rounds of approvals. We're dealing with working with whatever we receive, and we can't ask for anything more or different next time. It's just essentially what can we build from what we have, and that's kind of a little bit more background to our weekly products.
Yeah.
So I know they kind of, a lot of collectors will believe that they kind of missed their mark. But me personally, for what they were and what we were allowed to do with what we had and for our budget, I feel, we created what we felt we could to the best of our abilities with just every limited aspect we could possibly have. So it's essentially closer to not being a product at all than to have the budget and the components to actually be closer to a core product. So that's a little bit more explanation. I know it was viewed as confusing at first, and will every product have something like this? We aim to nail most of the properties that Marvel is releasing, but again, not as much focus put into the weekly products as the core products. I wouldn't say that they're looked at as an afterthought. We do put a lot of priority on it, but again, it's like how much blood can you get out of a stone type of thing. So we'll do whatever we can to the best of our abilities with what little we have at that point of the stage.
So we're talking about, so what we were talking about now is we're talking about those little MCU preview products like the Spider-Verse one, the Marvels did one, I believe. We were talking about it the other week, weren't we, Jason?
Yes.
Haven't you got some, I believe?
I do.
So
yeah,
Thor
I don't know if
had
I've got
one.
them handy, but yeah.
The one with
Guardians,
the
Thor.
goats. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're making a little bit go a long way with those, because at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff is it's just the character images that's released, and a lot of that has to be created anyway, and a lot of that is done very early on. But
I don't have any of those handy, but I did the Spider-Verse weekly, and those are
there you go.
are real. Yeah. They're the foiling on those is just really great. And
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's one of the only things we actually could afford. We didn't just want to give everyone just a regular, C2S paper card, but again, very razor thin margin. So, we try to learn from whatever we can from the previous release. Let's apply it moving forward. As long as we're becoming more efficient and effective in what we're trying to accomplish, that should be the direction. So, but yes, completely agree that, yeah, I mean, for what they are, for the very low level of the product that it is, I'm only talking low level as far as price point, as far as what's included in the product. I believe it serves its purpose, but to say that, we can always improve, we can always move forward and try to make the next one even better.
Well, it means you're hitting the audience that expect a product when the film's coming out, and a lot of those might not necessarily be card people. They might be fans of the movie. You know,
Absolutely.
their first card product.
Different fan.
So it's kind of you're hitting a different audience to that. The people who want the set with the achievement build to get the, I don't know, the double headline star dual auto for buying, you know, and trading and grinding for 36 hours on EPAC, and people do that, and you'll probably see a lot more of the data of that than we experience the reality of it. You probably see the data of it. So, you know, it's nice that you can touch both of those audiences. No, when I was saying weekly, I was thinking about, it might have been before you guys started there, actually, the 2019.
Oh, Cloak and Dagger.
Marvel Weekly. The set that was actually called Marvel Weekly that came out over that period. There was one that you only did it twice. You did Marvel Weekly 2019 and Marvel Weekly 2020. And you'd have every week it would come out, and it was your first weekly product on EPAC. And I remember you needed to have another product in your basket to be able to buy the Marvel Weekly product.
Oh, wow. And I'm embarrassed because I ventured down the wrong path with that response.
No,
but
absolutely not. I'm glad we talked about that little Marvel, the weekly MCU stuff, because that's actually, you know, it's quite cool to hear about those, because we didn't really talk about those with Grant. But no, the Marvel Weekly ones, I remember at the time, for ages, Marvel Annual 2016 was on there at $2.99. $2.99, folks. Those were the days. As a pack.
Missed that.
So you got one of them in your basket. You got one of them in your basket ready. You refreshed, and then at 5 o'clock, well, 5 o'clock UK time, 9 a.m. Pacific, it would either be smooth sailing or it would be but we made it, and you know, it was a fab experience, and it was a great little product, but it was a small product. That's what I'm saying. You got your base card, and it would be base card and 2 CC cards, which I think was Comic Clash a week. So you had to buy at least 3 or 4 packs to be able to actually have a chance at getting enough cards to fulfill it.
I see, and part of the embarrassment is that I'm actually not as familiar with that product as I should be.
Well, there you go. The checklists are still on your venerable website. You can go and have a butcher's at it.
Yeah.
In '89, Fleer also did basketball too, didn't they? Did you guys ever think about throwing any like basketball inserts too, or did you guys?
That is a great question, Wesley. So for this product specifically, we only stuck with the baseball designs. That's not to say that we won't ever see another iteration of this product in the future, and that's not to say that we are only sticking to baseball in the future. But based on what I am able to say, it's likely.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the future then, because this is a new brand. Okay.
That was my question. Yeah.
Well, you go for it, Keith.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like this is a nice, fun product for collectors to get in and out of, right? They're not going to be bogged down for a while. They'll be able to have a lot of fun with it very quickly. And does that mean that it's going to be a one-off, or as you said, is there more that we'll see of similar nature? Could this lead to a 90, or will there be inspiration from other product, as you've already alluded to? Was basically my question.
Yes, great question. So the Fleer Throwbacks brand, with this being the first iteration, we do plan to continue with this brand. We do plan to continue to pick significant years, focus on those. Without giving anything much more away, we do plan to expand the scope for Fleer Designs in their properties, in their ownership, not only sticking with baseball, but it's essentially the whole creation of this product was, what if there was a Marvel publishing product on this old sports design at that time? How would that be received? How would that be welcomed in the industry at that time? Whatever, but let's focus on that. Let's release it nowadays to look like it could have existed back then. So, you know, whether it's, you know, we're focusing on a particular year, we might know a bit more during the next iteration of this brand. I'm trying to leave it as cryptic as possible.
And that's where my brain gears start going, because I think about I think about later in the 90s. So let's just picture the scene. Picture the scene.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
This is a really successful product. Goes really well. Okay. And I imagine, knowing your lead times, you're probably already knee deep in future iterations should they be coming. However, let's just say, okay, for this one down the road that we haven't started working on yet, we're going to up your budget a little bit. Mid-90s had some very shiny covers.
Chromium covers and the like. I used to collect all of those.
Oh, boy.
All of those.
Oh, I love
Yes.
that cover.
Love it.
I love
Yes.
Love it.
that cover. And obviously, so to see something like that recreated with a similar foil effect would be a lovely thing. And while I'm on
completely
wish
agree.
list, Generation X, Generation X.
Always
to
and
collect
forever,
that.
Generation X.
Absolutely.
Always.
Gen X. Yep.
Chris
you
Bacala.
I
better
love
believe
that
it.
book. I
Generation X.
still love that book.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little underprepared, but wasn't that Jim Lee at least before his? Now again, that's
No.
probably embarrassing.
Generation X is Scott Lobdell and
Scott
Chris
Lobdell and Chris
Bacalo.
Bacala, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Thank
spins
you.
out of Phalanx Covenant.
Thank you.
You got it, man.
Nice.
I started reading that, and I had absolutely no idea what was going on. I reread it
Which was
a couple of years
amazing.
ago, and I still had absolutely no idea what was going on.
It
But
spills in.
It's Chris Bacalo artwork,
Yeah.
and so I don't care what's going on.
Dude,
that's a good
there
point.
is gosh, what is it? So to your point with that, one of the things that was really cool about not understanding a damn thing about that book is years later still trying to quantify Penance and M plate and how the three of them are the same and not the same is still wild, and I love that. But there is an image that Chris Bacalo did when he was on Uncanny X-Men. It was Uncanny X-Men 356, I think it is, and it's the classic 5 X-Men all as they look at that moment in time, and it's one of my favorite covers. And I think I was able to use that in Avengers versus an Allegiance Avengers versus X-Men.
Oh.
So anytime Chris Bacalo artwork can show up anywhere, I'm here for it, man.
I think that chromium cover is a great idea.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you, Keith, and I agree, Ian, that it is. Let's just say that whatever time period we might be choosing, part of the theme here is let's go for the technology and the cards that people could see around that time as well. So if we do end up landing in that zone, I can guarantee that that will be something that we are looking to include. We just kind of want to bring like a time capsule, like let's bring the collector back to this time period. So
bear with me, I've got a call coming in. Yep, it's holograms.
There you go. That's what I was going for.
There they are.
1989 team sticker holograms from Upper Deck. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Holograms just hit so differently back then, and they just they looked so cool. Like even still today, they're still just bonkers rad.
They're just so good.
And one of the like for me, like even Marvel Masterpieces, so up to that point, before the trading card sets coming out with the holograms, before Marvel Masterpieces debuted, I mean, I only speaking for myself, but it was difficult for me to envision these characters in a three-dimensional space. You know, I'm reading on this, piece of paper, this comic book. A lot of times it was colored, with the way that they colored the images back in the day. So it was difficult for me to kind of picture these characters as real people until we started seeing these holograms and this depth and this shadow, and until we started seeing Marvel Masterpieces where they are painted in a way where they actually look real and not flat on a piece of paper. So yes, we love holograms as well. I can remember the Silver Surfer from 35 years ago. I remember pulling that out of a pack and I think I ran home. I had my bike, but I think I just ran home.
Is it
I had
that
so
long
much.
now?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't even date ourselves, but yes, unfortunately, that was probably that long ago.
Was this product the throwbacks? Was it when y'all started planning it and talking about it? Was it always going to be intended for EPAC?
That's a great question too. So I think it was more so of where do you feel this would work? How well do you feel this would work? You know, we're mitigating risk. We're trying to see, you know, are we putting all of our eggs in one basket and splitting it across all the SKUs? Are we going to try to keep it a little more refined and controlled, kind of a little litmus test, little small sample size? We can see how well it does. That's a great question. I'm unsure if it was originally proposed as EPAC only. There were conversations between Grant and myself and others, a couple conversations. So where we ended up was EPAC exclusive. I don't believe that was the original idea, but I think for us internally, it made sense for what it is, for the budget it has, and for the print run and components that it does have.
Not that I want to take away any characters from your 10 chase sets, but every time I get Upper Deck on, I'm going to raise this little balloon, because we had a topic on the Facebook group the other day about what would be your perfect set. And oh my goodness, go and have a read of it, guys, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, they've pretty much done your job for you for the next 5 years.
It's true.
And we will be doing an episode about that. But more than once it came up. 9 cards, bind a page. 9 cards, bind a page. And I understand why you do the 10, because it means your sheets work in the 10 format. But please. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Your choices are 9 or 18.
No, yes. When we do build these products, when we are essentially the architect creating how large this set should be and how large, you know, on a macro and micro level, there is always that soundbite of collectors want it to be divisible by 9 or in groups of 9 because they want to turn the page, you know, and have the entire set shown on the 9 page if it's an insert, or, you know, not have the base set end on a card number 100. So now you got to flip the whole page. Now you have one sheet with one card on there. I know as a collector that kind of bugs me. But there are a handful of considerations when we are building these products. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times it's specifically for our vendor printing preferences. So it isn't necessarily like, hey guys, I know you want 9, here's 10, you know, write me a letter through the mail about it. But yeah, that's a little bit more insight about, you know, and as a collector myself, I like the groups of 9. I like that. I love the old splash pages in the sets in the 90s. I mean,
Danger Room.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Danger Room one still rules.
Oh,
even
absolutely.
the Bagley Spider-Man is great.
Yes.
Even especially.
Yeah.
I love those all, and we are considering, we continue to consider that is the collector's preference. However, sometimes we can't always build it to that fashion because a lot of times it might be budget related or our printing vendor specs preference related. So
to those vendors, I say, shut up.
Well, with Marvel Beginnings, the latest Marvel Beginnings, y'all pretty much nailed the 9-card sheet on that product with the base and some of the insert sets, the flipped FX, and the illustration boards. I think all were, fit in 9-card without any overlap.
Well, I think the original one back in 2011, 2012 did. So it's kind of, it's kept to the. But yeah, no, it hadn't occurred to me. I mean, that's a vast set, and the thing is, it won't work for every set. Some sets will be a more premium thing. People won't keep them in binders because of the nature of the Black Diamond, for example. I'd never expect you to do that because it's not a set that will live in a binder. So it's not true of every single set, of course. So
right, and actually based on that and how it relates to this specific product, this base set was originally intended to be 36 cards. So it was intended to be divisible by 9. It was supposed to be four pages. Flip them through, boom, there's the base set. However, we do have to make pivots. As I mentioned before, we can only control what we can control. But just know that if something does get released, and it's not to your 9-card preference, we aimed to make it that way, but many times we do have to make a pivot.
No, fair enough. Listen, it's I always like to drop it into conversation casually as much as I can. I'm not sure what else to ask. Anyone else got any questions about this set? Because otherwise I'm gonna start asking these guys about other
TJ,
stuff.
I wanted to know, you a while ago you talked about impact having an impact on characters.
Yes.
When we first started, what was the biggest influence on the impact that, the characters, the selections, choices you made for this set?
That's a really good question. For me, the big thing is I want everybody. So we all love this stuff, and we continue, whether it's comic books, trading cards, action figures, movies, all of these things. We all still put our money into it. We put our effort into it. But I want people to remember why they fell in love with this stuff to begin with. I want people to remember that it's not just you're not still collecting or buying out of obligation to the hobby or because you're a completist. It's because you remember the first comic that you ever bought, or that you remember the first character on the top of a trading card pack that you ripped open, or that first
I do.
action figure that you got. You remember what that character in the moment immediately did for you. I always think to myself, what is it about this stuff that I still love? Why am I still here? Reboots and character redesigns, all of these things. Peter's married, Peter's not married.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why do I still love this stuff? And that's 1989 was great for all of us because it really was a way to remember how you felt at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, whatever your age was, and what it was that kept you here. So that was the big thing I really wanted to think about with this. So like let me who's a good example of a character? Okay, perfect. Talking about the McFarlane Spider-Man period. Do you remember the Taskmaster issue of Amazing Spidey?
Mm.
And just
Yeah.
how rad Todd McFarlane's Taskmaster looked in
Oh
there?
yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know a thing about who Taskmaster was. I just know I knew that he looked cool. He's got a sword and a shield, and he's got that cool skull face.
Yeah.
That was all I cared about as a kid, was the visual.
At first, I
And
thought he was
so,
Skeletor
oh, dude,
from He-Man.
right?
I
He
thought
totally
he was
got that
Skeletor. I
vibe
had to
there.
figure it out with the shield. Okay.
Yeah. And then once you like learn, oh no, he's got Daredevil's Billy Club and Hawkeye's bow and all these things, and how cool that is as a kid. Then it's, oh man, now I want to know more. And so the big thing for me as a kid was my comics education came from the trading cards. Um, it was always how cool did that character look on the front and what was I going to learn on the back. So a
Mhm.
big reason why the checklist, in my opinion, was so successful on this. And I'm excited that you asked this, Josh, because this is where I get to give a shout out. Is our photo team and our type team here at Upper Deck. One of the last times Grant was on the show, he had talked about how I've really kind of taken ownership on the way we're choosing images, what we're using as far as the images go. A lot of it just has to do with what feels iconic and what's going to stick out, what's going to kind of get seared into your mind's eye. And our photo team has been so good about choosing something, even if it's a mundane issue. It doesn't have to be a key book, but if there's an image of Spider-Man or there's an image of Hawkeye that feels like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a trading card right there. I'm so happy to see them kind of moving into that and knowing what's going to work for the trading card right there. And they absolutely stuck the landing on this, so that was really cool. And then on the flip side with the type team, nothing had me more excited when we were going through everything to make sure that everything was up to snuff, was not only seeing that they're writing about 1989 in the moment. They're writing about it as if right now was 1989 or 1990, and they're writing these cards. I'll give the team a shout out for one of the things that I loved in particular. Every She-Hulk card is written as though it's She-Hulk talking to you.
Ah,
And that is the
Nice.
coolest thing for me, because what was always fun about that She-Hulk book, she's talking
Yeah.
to John Byrne, she's talking to Renee Witterstatter, and she's talking to the reader. And then is being able to flip to the back of the card, and now she's talking to the reader again.
Mm.
I can never talk enough about how awesome our photo team and our type teams are. They're just they are a huge part of why a set like this gets to slap as hard as it does. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
That's a great point, TJ. And yes, that's, a lot of times we might be the face or invited to interviews and talk about products and whatnot, but these other departments are just as involved. And a lot of this is rigorous. I know TJ goes, through levels of it. We are very familiar about the Jackal card showing up 3 times. We're very familiar with the Spider-Man image ending up here. We try our best 1000% to stick the landing, as TJ mentioned. And TJ,
For
back to
what
you.
it's worth, no, real quick, I just want to piggyback off of what you said there, because these are things that we do listen to. But one of the things that Joe and I did when we joined Upper Deck as well was look at recent previous products, stuff that came out before we got here, to see what we could do differently as well. And one of those things, for example, I remember somebody was upset that they pulled a PMG from from Metal Universe Spider-Man, and it was Mr. Sinister. And their response to that was, why am I getting Mr. Sinister in a Spider-Man product? And that's where I'm super, super, super careful about who lands in the checklist, where they get to go. There are about 7 to 10 Marvel characters that can land in any checklist anywhere. And that's great. Spider-Man has the luxury where we can put him in any product and no one will be mad to get a Spider-Man, because it's Spider-Man and he's got some connection to everybody. Iron Fist isn't going to land in every set, as much as I love Danny Rand.
Sure.
And at the same time, it's Mr. Sinister's a great villain. I don't think Spider-Man when I think of him. So when we're putting products together, that's the other thing we're thinking about, is who serves the checklist best. It's not about filling spaces. It's about making sure that everything is properly represented.
Yes, and we're trying to approach it respectfully, out of respect for the collector and the client and the consumer and the purchaser. So, and as TJ mentioned before, us both growing up being collectors, I learned, and TJ mentioned the card back. So, something that I've heard in passing in the industry the past few years on the forums is like, not as many people pay attention to the card backs, but I would almost argue it's, I learned the most I could about each character. Once the power grids, the backs of these cards had power grids, I was able to compare everybody. And, unless previously, if they were in the same comic together, if he or she, they lost in the battle, okay, well, they were outmatched, overpowered. But it was until these power grids on the card backs came around where I could see, oh no, this person actually, I thought they were the best. They're nowhere close, because these 4 characters are even better at that. So
also, every single one of us here learned cosmic Marvel characters from trading cards. I don't care what
Correct.
anybody says.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
nobody was reading any book until the Infinity Gauntlet that had cosmic Marvel characters the way they were on the cards.
Yes.
If you're going to tell me, oh, yeah, I knew the Living Tribunal and the In-Betweener were, I'm calling you out on that.
Right.
We all learned them from the trading cards.
The thing,
So-
the thing that makes me laugh about the power ratings is how much because we spoke to Bob Budiansky about this on Marvel Universe 1990, and he was basically about.
Sorry, I totally popped for that one.
Oh no, he's a lovely
I love
dude.
him.
I can't tell you how many arguments I remember getting in with my friends over the power ratings and the scales. No, it should be a little bit
That's
higher.
the thing.
Like, what are you
I
talking
think it was a little bit seat of the
Yep.
pants for them and the editor team at the time. They're just
Yeah.
kind of like, what do you think? Oh, I don't know. Put that on there. I mean, I
I-
don't think
Talking about
it was
pressure.
probably a little bit more formal than that,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was far off in some cases. Because if you notice, Marvel Universe 1990, compare some of the characters to the version that came out in 94, for example. And some of them have even lost or gained height in that time.
Yeah.
So, there is a card somewhere. I can't remember which one it is now. There is one card that has Black Cat over 6 foot.
Oh wow.
Which is crazy, because Spider-Man is always 5'10", 175.
Interesting.
So, it varies. And, I think the Aunt May one, I mean, was it Pies Baked or something like that? I mean, Bob
Affiliation,
did
the Grey Panthers.
mention that. Yeah. The Silver Surfers. as they call them these days.
Yeah, there you
No,
go.
it's fun, and those power grids are always fun, which is why I like the Marvel annual sets that you guys do now, which is why they work so well on pack walls as well, because you have that kind of that stat stuff going on the back, which is quite a lot of
Yes.
fun.
That's also nice for new characters too, which I really groove on that for.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to kind of fit them in. I think as humans, if we can't classify or categorize something, it kind of makes us feel uneasy. So if we have a new individual, new character, whomever, we kind of want to see, okay, now based on everyone else, where do they fit in this? And Keith, that's a great point. I remember my brothers, even we would all argue about who would win in a fight, and we would hold the, well, no, it says, 7 in strength. Of course they're, and fighting ability. Of course they'd beat you. And it's endless arguments, 100%.
I just remember ego being the strongest.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
always
Ego
whoever
was the
brought up
strongest.
ego. It was like, oh, okay, well then
And
stop.
everyone would look at
It's
what the hell is an ego?
yeah, it's almost like
But you
if you're
still
playing video
no
games
joke.
against someone and someone says, well, you can't pick the Lakers or you can't pick the best team, the Patriots,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like
Yep.
whenever we had discussions about the power grids, it was like you can't bring up ego. Leave him to the side. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about real characters here. So
I remember the first time I saw Galactus was on a card, and he was off the chart on stream,
yeah.
everything. And I just going back to learning about cosmic characters and on cards. But yeah, Galactus was the one that always stuck out to me as being like sevens across the board.
of course.
Yeah.
I can tell
epic
you guys
level
are
threat.
you guys are definitely excited about this coming out. I know one of these guys asked about the similarities between the other sets. I want to go the other way. What do you think is the biggest difference with this set than the things
Thank
that
you.
have come out?
Thank you. Great question. There's a lot of really great questions here today. Well, I would expect
Yeah.
nothing less. Great group. I would say, this would probably be okay. So we spike in retro designs into products here and there. Sometimes, depending on who you ask, it might be too many times. I don't think we've had a dedicated entire product. Or I should say an entire product dedicated to that. And it's not we're not running around just trying to pick and choose what worked the best and what would be the best. We're trying to keep it contained with the idea one eye on the product, one eye on the future. We don't want to burn the candle at both ends, use everything great right now because that might hinder us in the future. So let's be very careful, very deliberate about what we're choosing. So to make this different from other products, we have a variety of reasons. So this could be like, a product dedicated to basically one specific design, which kind of created the entire product. We have inserted other designs for the inserts in this product as well, but I don't think we have another product where the entire product is focusing on one specific design to kind of carry the core component of that product. Another thing that makes it, significant and different is, it is EPAC only release for a core product. I know that's been done before, but it's not typical. Another thing is we didn't necessarily build this. I wouldn't say for longevity. We expect it to sell out, but we don't. In saying that longevity, it shouldn't take you forever to complete this set. It shouldn't, burst your bank account to be able to complete this set. Even the achievement section, it's in many of our products, we have to, well, let's build an achievable, not to sound redundant, an achievable achievement section
Yeah,
that regular
right.
collectors can enjoy and have fun with. But also, we have to have this mega super, component in the achievements for the whales and the people who want to drop thousands of dollars and have something. I know to regular collectors that may not sound like it's very fair. I'm a regular collector myself, but the fact is not everyone can afford certain aspects of those certain achievement programs. That is different here in that I fully believe that regular collectors can complete this achievement program. These sketch cards, there's limited quantities. It's a bit of a race, but I'll leave it as that. But yes, we are excited about this kind of being its own standalone. There are components that make it different. There are components that make it unique. But I think in that sense, we have something unique here.
You know what
Nice.
I think helps as well with this too, Joe, is we have collectors who buy everything that Upper Deck does. Then there's people who only do entertainment, pop culture, publishing, whatever it may be, and then people who only do sports. But if you're a dedicated sports card collector as well, the idea of us using that Fleer 89 baseball design is going to at least make you interested in trying something like this out, just so that you can compare what we did on this to what had come out in 1989, and just be able to enjoy the visuals with one another. And I think that's really cool because again, publishing, especially publishing, is such a very specific audience that there's not always a ton of crossover. So
Mm.
for me, I think that that's really cool.
And that's a great point, TJ. I think our second or third target market, especially since the pandemic, is not only, our comic book collectors, publishing collectors, but yeah, the secondary or tertiary target market is always the sports card collector. Because,
Mhm.
we can't leave them out. They're on the site regardless for their own reasons. They're going to be there. But also that combination, that overlap of, Marvel publishing product using old sports design. So we are kind of trying to blend that together, trying to create a unique arm of the community. So hopefully, not to create, but I guess to bring something to that community that they can both enjoy.
I
It's
told Joe when we were putting this together, and I just got to get this out here real
there you
quick,
go.
that one of the things that I thought was really exciting about working on this was knowing that there's going to be a Spider-Man card that is on the same card design as Howard Johnson from the New York Mets. And for me, I love that because I love the Mets and I love Spider-Man. So getting two elements of Queens right there on the same card, decades removed from two different ends of the spectrum, it's I just think that's a lot of fun.
Okay, and one more interjection as well. Yeah, I know as mentioned before, TJ mentioned, the butt of the baseball bat, the Billy Ripken, just as a joke internally, as a joke between a few people. It was like, well, nobody hold, well, okay, but wait, what about Mjolnir? What about the handle of Thor's hammer? We're just like, you know what? Let's. I was like, you know what? Let's not
That'd
even
have been
bother.
awesome.
Not even bother. Let's keep
That would have
moving.
been awesome.
Yeah,
I
so
guess that there probably was some people that might have lost their jobs there at Upper Deck for something like for that originally.
absolutely.
So that's probably.
I
Yeah,
almost feel like it
so
would have been worth it.
Man.
but it was discussed, so
Right.
it didn't necessarily make it further than the first or second circle, but it was brought up as a joke. Can we do this? No, we're not going to do it. We're not doing
You
anything
can't
of the
tell me
sort.
can't
that
So
actually
someone
do
on their
that.
lunch break in your art department didn't just do let's show it to the person in the booth next door.
yeah,
Because I would have. That's fun. Because what I found interesting was the what if set had that sports
Mm.
parallel as well. So, and of course that is
Yeah,
just as we record dropped on EPAC, and I imagine that's where you're seeing that crossover. And of course, for you as a business, you want to be able to cross those streams as well, because it's great
absolutely.
for you if they're buying more than just one stream of
absolutely.
product. So
Well, and these two communities have a lot more in common than they might initially
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah.
We are both collectors. Like TJ as well. We're kind of called the unicorns because we have vast comic book knowledge, but we're also huge sports fans. So, we can
Hmm.
carry the conversation. But I think that, if we can, a lot of times the sports collectors will stay on that side of EPAC in the community, and sometimes and they'll only offer trades to whomever and whatever they're interested in. But yes, this is kind of creating that sense of community, partnership, opening these new conversations and dialogues with collectors on EPAC whom you may have never reached out to begin with, but they're starting to collect this because they recognize the card design. So we are just kind of trying to spark a little bit of that, igniting a little bit more of that cross collaboration in the community on the EPAC marketplace.
that's cool. That's cool. And the
There's
achievement.
probably
Oh, sorry, Karen Wesley.
I was gonna say there's probably some Chicago Bulls fans out there that would like to see some 1986.
Hey, that's a great point, Wesley. That's a great point. You know, and the
I
Fleer
hate even saying it
designs,
'cause
I think
Bye, Ian.
I think 84, I think 84 and 87 were probably very, very, very famous Fleer designs in other sports. So yes, I and absolutely agree there. Yes.
What do you guys believe was the first that some of the first influences for the crossover? Because I was one of the sports guys that found his way over the Marvel cards through that path. What some of the first sets like 89, 90, 91, what was the first influences for them to first start us to see them on cards finally?
That's a great question too.
Like thing like the jambalayas and stuff like that. Is that what
Yeah,
I
well,
think
even from just the comic book format, what we'd been exposed to prior, when everything kind of
I think
changed in '89.
that's a great question, TJ. If I
I
saw
think
your
I've
hand
got the
moving.
answer to that.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, that's a great point. Yeah.
It's the for me, I think because when Jim Lee and Eric Larson and Mark Silvestri and Tom McFarlane, all those guys jumped from Marvel to start Image, that wasn't just news in the comic book world. That ended up becoming national news. It was national news from a pop culture standpoint, and it was national news from a business standpoint because everybody knew who those guys were. And if you didn't, it was these guys are going to start a fledgling comic book company, which, let's be honest, at that period, there were a lot of comic book publishers, but still only everybody thought was Marvel and DC. And I think because there is a collectability in those guys' names, especially within Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, you're going to get people who maybe they only collect because they're looking to, they're a part of the speculator market or they want to do something like that. But then you get guys who come over where it's, oh well, I work card shows and I sell cards and I mostly do sports, but these looked really cool. I remember this character or I remember this character, but I've never seen them look this rad. And now you're starting to see not where comics were from what you remember, but now you're seeing where comics are. And that once again is the power of the trading card is for me, trading cards I still think are one of the most educational components within comics. And now it wasn't just for kids who are reading comics and they want to learn more about characters. Now there's the lapsed reader seeing what they're missing. Now there's that person who's never even looked through them before and they're getting a feel of, oh, this is what Spider-Man is. I remember the cartoon from 1966 and it looked dorky, and now this guy looks awesome. Or
Yeah.
I mean, and let's even be honest, it's 89, it's 90, it's 91. Then there's the way the art style changed, and that's the predominant appeal to the trading card there.
Yeah.
So now you're getting to see, oh, that's the Mary Jane that Spider-Man is married to. Oh, that's what She-Hulk looks like, so on and so on. Rogue, Storm. And so now that's a completely different component there. And I think it really was just about showing that audience that there was more to this than what they thought. And I think that in turn is the appeal to how the MCU worked for a much wider audience.
Yeah.
It's just showing people what we already knew and that there's a seat at the table for everybody.
Well put.
That's good.
The one thing that struck out when you were talking is that you had that period in the late 80s going into 89, 90, where the paper stock suddenly just jumped up a notch.
Totally.
And the
Definitely.
colors were more vibrant.
Definitely.
And you really got a lot more of the definition of the penciling and the ink work as well. It was night and day when you look at like something from 1984 to
That was the line. That was the big line in the sand.
Yeah.
I'm wildly interested in the production standpoint, and from that year on, it was mind blowing with the holograms, and it just that grabbed a lot of people. I have a lot of people that I know that never had a comic book in their hand and love these Marvel cards, absolutely love them, but never collected comics.
That's a great point too, because I mean 1990, 91, 92 and Impel Series 1, 2, and 3, and then we started seeing Fleer Ultra and Flare coming around and Marvel Masterpieces. in 92 is in some of these inserts and some of the technology used in these inserts. And so I think that, a lot of sports card collectors existed up to that point. They were already kind of like the e-pack example, like they're already coming into the store, and then while they're standing there and waiting for their pack or whatever, and then be like, oh, what's that over there, and this is new, and
me.
let me just, I'm curious, and then they start to see some cards that maybe they've never seen anything like this on the sports side, and they're like, oh wow. So I think way back, absolutely, that might have been like the first big migration. However, beginning of the pandemic, like 2020 type, when prices were just skyrocketing in the secondary market, I think a lot of sports collectors started who didn't jump on, in the early 90s, late 80s, might not even have been alive at that point. But I think during that pandemic, it kind of just opened a lot of collectors' eyes of, okay, well, we don't all have to go after these PSA 10 Michael Jordans. Like there's actually a lot of money in these other products too. So I know that we internally we consult with a few people on a few things for a variety of reasons. But I remember one of our consultants mentioned to us, well, I began collecting during the pandemic, and I was just, I've never shunned him for that because, collectors begin and continue for their own reasons, stop whenever they want to, but it always offers that unique perspective too. Because not everyone has to fit the bill and the mold the same way. A lot of times we make better decisions when we have a more diverse group in front of us or around us. So yeah, it is always interesting to me to try to dig into, when did you begin? And I'm not grilling anyone or quizzing anyone. It's just for my own sake, my own peace of mind of, yes, there are a wide variety of collectors out there collecting a wide variety of products for their own wide variety of reasons. And so we're just, when we're approaching products, we kind of want to, how can we hit people? How can, not in that sense, but how can we deliver something that people are looking for? And many times in marketing and sales, people might say that the customer collector don't know what they want, and we have to tell them what they want. Not a specific Upper Deck side of things, but we would like to produce things that we anticipate they would like. And then, upon release, if it does well, then great. If it falls on its face, well, let's, go back to the drawing board and learn from our mistakes, or learn as much as we can before we do the next one. So
come up with a product they didn't know they needed.
exactly. So I'm unsure if a couple extra dollars were in the, the cookie jar and we're like, let's do something fun with this. I'm not exactly sure what sparked the original need for this product, but I do know in the original conversations it was, what do you guys think about what if a Marvel Publishing product was released on these old classic sports designs? And then that kind of just, well, okay, let's continue that conversation. Let's continue and try to arrive somewhere that makes sense for us, but also for the collector. So we feel we landed right there in the middle.
Cool. Well, as we record, we're still just under 2 weeks out from that, but this should drop hopefully before the set drops on EPAC. So it will give people a little bit of a sense of what to expect, and I'm sure they'll all be there queuing up to buy their stuff. I always put people who work at Upper Deck through these questions the first time they come on the podcast. I'm going to start you with an easy one: Avengers or X-Men?
X-Men.
Yeah.
TJ,
I say
honestly,
that as
I
someone
thought you were going to implode at that point. You were
Yeah.
like,
because I love Bendis's 2004 New Avengers so much,
Oh yeah.
and Yellow Jacket's one of my favorite costume designs ever. But I had to go with the X-Men.
Good. Favorite costume design for me, even though you didn't ask, but unsolicited, I'm going to tell you anyway. Carol Danvers in that noughties period, where she had the thigh-high boots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's
Oh,
that
yeah.
costume these days?
The Ms. Marvel costume, the Warbird costume.
The
I
Ms.
love
Marvel
that
costume.
outfit.
I love
Totally.
seriously, it was a
That's how
really good story as well.
Yeah.
It's my first ever, Ms. Marvel, or whatever it is, Captain Marvel, anything.
Is that the old, like the Chris Claremont stuff, right? In late 70s, or are you talking about the
No, that series in the noughties. I'd experienced it a few times, but I'd never read a title.
That's
the
the Brian Reed, Aaron Lopresti one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ms. Marvel 47, the issue where she goes out on a date with Spider-Man is fantastic.
Yeah. Wasn't Greg Land doing the covers or some? No.
He was doing covers, and then Sonnet Cicada, I think at one point was doing some. Oh, that's great.
Right.
That's killer run.
Anyway.
And this is why TJ was an Eisner Award judge.
Yeah,
Everybody.
no. Have you ever had a knowledge off with Grant?
Grant, can I TJ real quick?
Beer. Yes, go for it.
Sometimes TJ and I will ambush Grant during lunch, and we'll just jump into his office and take a seat. And some of the conversations I overhear between TJ and Grant is just it floors me. I don't even want to interject or impose or anything. I just sit back and just like, this could be a podcast, and it probably should in the future at some
Seriously,
point.
guys, you should probably do that.
Talking to him. Yeah.
You should probably do that. It kind of reminds me of those scenes in Oppenheimer, if you haven't seen it. Go and see it. But where the nuclear physicists are talking early on, I kind of imagine it to be that level of conversation between you guys.
It's impressive.
It is incredibly nerdy. It's pretty great.
Yeah. So only certain nerds can hear that frequency. Have you? Now you might not have been there long enough for this, but quite a few people at Upper Deck have ended up on cards. Have you ended up on a card yet, or are you about to?
I think what you just to shed a little more light, I think as bystander cards on our tabletop,
in Legendary,
and on our Legendary game, I have not. I would love to in the future. TJ, are you?
I have not. I would love to. I hope so.
Right. Who do we need to petition to make this happen?
We got to talk to Simon about this one, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Whoever Simon is, Simon, make it happen. While you're there, I wouldn't mind being on one either. So if you don't ask, you don't get, kids.
That's right.
And here we go. Now, this one, I'm really interested to hear your answer. Okay. This will be the last one of these. What Upper Deck set do you wish you had worked on but hadn't, either current or from before your time there?
TJ, please. I know you got your answer already.
I think I do.
Okay. Otherwise, I do right now.
Go for yours first.
Okay. I would have to say 92 masterpieces. I would think with Joe Jusko. It's iconic. Even if I was delivering mail to the people who was working on that product, if I just had a hand in that product, I would be happy. And yeah, I think it's amazing. It opens so many doors for so many people in the industry, in comics, for artists. Like it revolutionized, and we're still working off of that here today.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a killer answer, Joe. Holy cow.
Follow that, TJ. Come on.
Yeah, right. I can't do that. Nobody can.
Think about Upper Deck ones. Go for Upper Deck ones.
I have a really we all mentioned the X-Men earlier. Obviously it was before I started here. I would have loved to have worked on Metal Universe X-Men. I have a very specific visual of the X-Men and what I think of when I think of them in my head. And so anybody who ever like really talks to me about trading cards, Joe knows this. I talk about this a lot. I've brought it up to Grant before. I'm all about the big hits. I'm all about getting the auto card, getting the dual auto, getting the comic. I love all of that stuff. My heart is with the base set. And the reason why is that it's the only component to any card set that we put out where you are guaranteed to get everything. You can get every card in the base set. And so I love making sure that everybody looks as rad or as iconic or as killer as we possibly can, because two reasons. One, somebody looks at that and they're immediately going to say, oh, if the art is this good on the base, it's going to be even better on the hits. But then number two, whoever your favorite character is gonna look badass, like my favorite X-Men is the Beast, and I always try to make sure that whenever I do a Beast card, that it's always an artist that gets that character looking right. So it's, I'm not a Kitty Beast era fan. I love Grant Morrison, but Frank quietly redesign for the Beast does nothing for me. So I always try to make sure that I'm getting somewhere between George Perez and Jim Lee and everybody who can do that. So that's what I always think about. So Metal Universe X-Men, yeah, 100%.
And
Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, you're doing great, Teach. And to update mine, because Ian, you did ask what Upper Deck product, and I know we didn't touch 92 masterpieces, so I would change my answer to 2015 or 16, the year, the revamped re-release of the new set with Joe Jusko.
Well, funnily enough, I was thinking of that set when TJ was talking about Beast, because that Jusko artwork for Beast on that set is just
so good,
top level.
Yes.
Yeah, it just stands out for me. Mind you, so does anything Simone Bianchi ever paints or creates. And I just recently reread his Astonishing X-Men run, and just the way he does Beast in that is just...
Dude, even his cover run on Wolverine when Jeff Loeb was doing it, those black and white covers,
the Romulus stuff.
Yeah, that stuff is killer.
Yes.
I can't wait to see what these Fleer Throwbacks where we go from here, guys.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you giving us the early scoop on this one. It's really appreciated. If you could read one word from collectors when this set drops, what word would you like it to be? And I've just pulled this off the top of my head.
How about wow? I think that is the word that I'm after, at least for anything that I touch.
Do you say wow like Owen Wilson or Christopher Walken in that regard?
Now I can do both, but I'll save our group and our listeners. Yeah, I'll do the Owen. Oh,
okay.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Wow. But if we do things correctly, I believe the collectors should say wow. If they have any memory of 1989's or that design, I hope that the one word is wow.
Okay.
Mine is childhood.
It's good.
I want this to hit everybody in the childhood.
What about 89 slang? Like, what if they go gnarly?
Oh, I would love gnarly, tubular, cowabunga.
I did hear somebody say rad here a little while ago too.
TJ did drop a rad.
TJ.
There you go.
TJ's the rad guy. Yeah.
It thrashes the nar.
Yes.
That's some killer gnar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Will the
Oh,
parallels have 80 names like Rad Red or
Jason.
tubular turquoise?
Jason.
I think
Where
you can have
were
too
you?
much of a good thing there, Jason.
Mellow yellow.
We should have reached out. Yes.
Well, next time, guys.
Man.
Next time. Listen,
For sure.
I really hope that you guys can come back again. TJ, I know you're on a lot of sets. You've been on a lot of Twitches. That sounds wrong, but you've been on a lot of Twitches. And
as long as my wife knows.
Okay. On that note, usually me that goes there, but never usually with Upper Deck guests. And Joe, I loved your Moon Knight. I'm hoping to see you on more of those Twitches because we're actually tomorrow as we record, we're going to open a box of Moon Knight on the podcast.
Oh, exciting. I would love to hear
I think Jason can pop on for that. Any of you other guys, feel free if you're up in the morning. So I'm jonesing to get in there because one of our friends has we've seen him pull a dual Oscar Isaac and May Calloway auto. Brad Galley.
Love it.
Pulled one on his Instagram the other day. So yeah, really excited about that. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. If one of you can do a Christopher Walken sign off to the end of this episode,
He's
then
the Christopher Walken.
I would very much appreciate it.
Okay. Wow. Am I doing this? Okay. So I don't know if my Christopher Walken is that good. All right. Joe, so you wrote it down. Can you send it over, please? What I'm supposed to say? Because
absolutely. As Ian mentioned, one of you write it down because the other will forget. So here we go. I am sending it to you.
Joe is the responsible one. I'm just the hungry one.
I sent it to you, Teach.
All right.
In the meantime, I did want to say thank you for the opportunity to everybody. This was a great time.
This was
Cannot
fantastic.
wait for the next one. Yes, but back to TJ, please.
enjoy collecting. Wow.
There we
No,
go.
my walk is terrible. Joe's is really good. Joe's is really good.
I'll maybe I'll save it for next time, but I don't
Save-
want to,
save it
you
for
know.
next time. You can be
Yeah.
practicing it in the mirror.
There we go.
In a
There we
Guys,
go.
this was
kind of
great.
way.
Thank you, really.
No,
Thank
no,
you
no,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you guys for everything. All your efforts.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, folks. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. The podcast can be found by Googling @the MCC Pod, which is also our handle on Facebook and Instagram. If you have an idea for podcast topics or want to be on the podcast, please reach out via social media or email us at themccpod@gmail.com. Our Facebook communities are MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. Creative design and logos for the podcast and groups are by artist Michael Monshaw. You can find him on Instagram @artofm2. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, collect your way and always be kind to others. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.